Hey, good morning, fam. I got a question for you. Have you ever come to a point in your life where there's a stumbling block and you wonder why you can't get to the next level? Have you ever wondered why um, you just can't get to where you want to get to? Here's a question. Here's the answer I want to propose to you: conflict resolution, internal and external. In order to find perfect peace, you have to find not only resolution with the external conflict, you have to find resolution with the internal conflict. Now, where I'm going with this, now I would say I'm just throwing numbers out there. 98% of us, sometimes we get to that stumbling block and we just can't figure out why. Now, I would say about 38 to 45% of us get to the next step. Now, you're probably wondering, how can I get to the next step? Simple. Find out what is eating at you. Find out what is your internal conflict. Internal conflict could be anger with someone else, anger with yourself, not dealing with the past issues. External conflict, like, could be anything going from, like I said, forgiveness could be external also. Now, here's how they handle an internal conflict. I know some of you might not like this, but go in the mirror, look at yourself, and ask yourself, is there anything I like or dislike about myself? Do I have any type of ill will towards others? And we go down through this checklist, and if you answer to those two I mentioned yes, then the next thing is that, okay, I acknowledge that. What's the next step? The next step is a support system, or write stuff down, like in a journal, or you got iPhone or Android. There's a notes in your notes section. Write it down in your notes section, and it's a process. You can't get over it in one day. Now, internal conflict. Now, sometimes internal conflict is forgiveness. Sometimes we might do something to somebody and we do say sorry, but are we truly sorry? And the reason why I ask that question is that person may forgive us, but in truth, have we forgive ourselves, or are we still beating ourselves over the head? And we are our own worst enemy. And that's what I mean by internal conflict, because we're so self-critical of ourselves. And being self-critical of ourselves, we can't get to the next step because we're too busy chipping away our own self-esteem. Another thing that could be internal conflict is self-doubt, because we hear so much negativity. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, you're not going to do that. Only certain people could be president, or only certain people will be CEOs. Well, newsflash, if a person put their mind to it and have that drive and that determination, they can achieve if they believe. Now, with conflict comes resolution, known as conclusion, or what I call inner peace. Resolution, you come to a recognition of the conflict, and you just want to bury the hatchet and put it away and going on. Now, have I truly reached resolve in certain things? Yeah, most part, yes. There's some no's I'm still working on. I used to, for instance, I want to give it a good example for internal conflict. When it came to relationships or anything that kind of went south, I always blame myself because I felt like I wasn't man enough to hold it together, or I didn't have everything under control. What's the problem with this picture, fam? I just looked at the one side of it. Okay, there were some things I could have done better, but I didn't look at the flip side of the chart. And what I found out was, in life, you're not the master of the universe. You don't always have control, because you can't control other people and how they feel or act around you. And one of my friends said, Kenny, if it's meant to be, then it's meant to be. Just let it go. Now, this is another point I'm bring up to you about conflict resolution and internal and external conflict. Let it go. Now, how many of us have stuff we hold on, and we just don't want to let it go? Yeah, I used to be guilty of that. Like I said, it's a process. Now, here's the thing. If you don't let it go, it's gonna manifest into something much worse. Sometimes that deep grudge you have for somebody, it can manifest itself to something physical, and you be sick, and you wonder why you're sick, and you kind of think, okay, I've been sick for 3 weeks now. Why is that? Maybe because you have that grudge, or that you just don't let it go. Sometimes you just have to take a deep breath, like that movie, Waiting to Exhale, and just let it go. Because who's gonna win? Yeah, that person did something to you, and that's unplorable. But here, I'm gonna be honest with you. We all human. We all have life lessons. We all struggle. Sometimes when we hurt people, it's inadvertently. We're not aware of it. Well, when that happens, bring it to attention in a tactful way, without the name calling, the threats. To say, hey, were you aware of this? And if the person said no, because sometimes we get so caught up in stuff, we inadvertently do stuff. But then again, you got those people who, like I said, it can be harmful to your health. Those people who are harmful to you, don't hold that grudge, because you give them control. You give them power over your emotion. You handed them the key to your emotional car. No, take back the key to your emotional car, and just be done with that person. Block them from your inbox. Don't call them no more. Just move on. That's another way for this moving on and not having nothing to do with that person. That's one way of dealing with conflict resolution. Just don't mess with them, and just let it go and move on to the next chapter of your life. Because holding on to grudges, and I'm guilty of it, because I held on for so many years. Well, part of it was, I could say, it was more family. Part of it was family related. Yeah, the civil rivalry. Another thing that kind of held me back. Okay, it didn't kind of help me back. It did help me back. I was working in a brick and mortar job that didn't appreciate me. It was toxic, and it did beat up on me. It was wear and tear. Another thing that probably did me in was, I won't say do me in, let me rephrase that statement, was the fact that I had suffered a lot of losses, and I didn't grieve, because I felt like I didn't have time to grieve, that I had to hold it together for the group, that I had to be the strong man. That's another thing. When you suffer a loss, it could be a loss of finances, it could be a loss of a job, it could be a loss of a pet, it could be a loss of a loved one. I do recommend this highly. Please take time to grieve. We're all human. We're not superheroes here. Because if you don't take time to grieve, it's gonna build up like an emotional cavity, and it's gonna like harden. And when it hardens, it's not good. And it does affect not only spiritual health, your mental health, it does affect your physical health. Because what has manifested mentally can also affect spiritually and physically. And it's all connected. Now, what I want, not only for myself, for you to do for your journey for inner peace and resolution, ask yourself this: is there anything in my life that I need to let go? And why do I need to let it go? Ask those two questions. And once you find the answer to those two questions, you're on your way to that journey of inner peace. To believe, to achieve, and also by putting away or bury the hatchet is another way to success. You cannot be successful by holding grudges. You cannot be successful by bringing up the past. Because sometimes a person may not remember 5 years ago or 5 or 10 minutes ago. So, with that being said, find peace, don't hold grudges, and take a good look at yourself and end the conflict.